And it brought me a lot of really cool opportunities. And I never thought about it because it wasn't the goal in the beginning, right? The goal was to help my community via storytelling. But it brought me really good opportunities. I was invited by Microsoft. They brought me to Seattle to be part of like their most important event. And we did a live podcasting, and I never thought about it. I was part of a lot of different events, and it was really, really good to be part of that. The podcast was invited by HubSpot to be part of their community. So I'm part of the HubSpot creator community. It was something that I never thought that this could happen. So it was definitely something that I never expected. And it was really nice that I didn't have this expectation because I could create something that I really believed instead of like having all those noise that I was like, oh, if I do X, HubSpot is going to invite me.
Welcome to Latinx in Power, a podcast hosted by Thaisa Fernandes.
Good morning. Good morning. We are here to have an amazing session today, and it will be a very different session. I know we've been talking about this for some time, Thais. So I wanted to first acknowledge and recognize how much I love you, how much I've learned with you during the last almost 10 years of our friendship. And I also wanted to use this space, which is your space, to talk more about you, because today we'll be doing things differently, right? So today will be the last episode of your amazing podcast, that podcast that has been with all of us for more than 10 years or around 10 years in general. But I'm sure that in your mind, it's been more than that, because I know all the efforts and all the energy that you put to everything that you do. So I'm very excited about this episode. Again, thank you for inviting me to bring in this new closure of our lives. I know lives are open, or are always being open and being closing, the different closures and loops. So I'm very excited about this opportunity. So thank you for choosing me to be the person that is closing your podcast. But more importantly, thank you for allowing me to learn more about you and everything that you do and all the great things that you bring to this world. We need more people like this. So thank you. And let's have fun with the episode today. So before we jump into the cool stuff, I wanted to just take some minutes to talk about you. You are not only an amazing human being in a normal life, 24/7, but it's also during your daily activities. You work more as a senior program manager, but you're also bringing your design skills and your enthusiasm to everything that you do, right? In terms of creativity, bringing new approaches, building products, building groups. So we will talk more about that, Thais. So I wanted to just start with this high-level intro. If you can tell us a little more about you, because I know you're always used to be in this side of the conversation. So today is your time for you, and we are grateful for that. So tell us a little more about what you're doing today. We are learning the power of being in the present and saying the right words today, not what you're doing in general. And let's take it from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Very excited with this episode, and I'm so thankful that you accepted my invite. And of course, it needed to be you. We have been friends for many, many, many years and always helping each other. And you are the first person that I interviewed for this podcast. So I love how life is full circle in a way. So you now are interviewing me. So I'm very excited about that. So a little bit about me. So I'm Thaisa. I decided to create this podcast because I wanted to consume something like that. And I feel so, actually, I felt very inspired by a quote by Toni Morrison that says, if you're free, you need to free somebody else. You have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. And I felt so inspired when I met other Latinas when I moved to the US. So I wanted to interview all the amazing people that I know, because I think they are so inspiring and amazing. I learned so much from them. And I selfishly wanted to consume something like that. So I think this is another part where I was like, oh, I want to interview this person. I want to learn with this person. So this is the reason why I created, because I also truly believe that representation, diversity, it's important, especially now that we can kind of not talk about that anymore. And the stories are so inspiring. My focus is always on people who work in tech, but honestly, you can grab inspiration from like no matter what you're doing, I feel, because there's a lot of life lessons, a lot of interesting things. And my full time of the house, I'm a senior program manager. I work for a commerce platform, supporting product team and cross-functional teams, like launching and building new products. I like to build things. I really enjoy building things, and I have a lot of energy, and I need to express my creativity in different ways. So I usually have some different personal projects, the podcast being one of them. I also have a blog where I write about program management, tech, product management in general. And it's kind of like a community now, because I have other writers writing for the PM101, which is really cool. So you have like different perspectives about tech in general, especially product management. And I just launched a book. I love books. Books are amazing. And I love to cook. I love to bake. And I launched a cookbook that features especially Brazilian desserts in a vegan way, and also tells a little bit the story of my life. It's a little bit memoir kind of thing. And it's mostly Brazilian recipes, some American recipes, because it kind of like mix with my time living in the US for the past decade. The name of the book is Vegan Anniversary in the Bay Area. I created this book in partnership with a friend, Isabelle Alvarez, that I also interview in this podcast. So she did all the creative direction, the photographies, the design, like everything is like her mind. And I'm just so proud of this work. It looks really pretty. And I think that's it.
Yes, no, that's amazing. Because one of the things that I've always admired about you is that multifaceted mindset, right? Like you learn something, you're passionate about something, but you also elevate it to the next level. And like I said, I always say that passion is underrated, because I really believe it. I'm also a dreamer. Like in a world, I always dream of a world where people really understand that having a passion for something is pretty unique, and that can bring you to unique places as well. So I'm always grateful for all of those manifestations that you have and how I learned from you. So when we met, like I mentioned, I think that was at least 9 years ago. We were kind of going through similar journeys, right? Coming to the US pretty recently, trying to enter into tech, trying to break into the product management, or at least to understand what product management was back in the days. I think in our countries, that concept of product management is a little different. So by the time we moved to the US, I'm sure you went through the same. I went through, and some other friends, that process of mapping things out. What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And I remember telling to myself all the time, like, I wish I were a doctor, because I know if I'm a doctor, I know what I want. If I'm a lawyer, I know. But being a product or project, etc., management part of things, is not always easy to find a one-on-one comparison. So we were going through that kind of professional identity journey, if we can call it. And we met just very casually, but we exchanged a lot of opinions and ways of seeing the life, which is pretty unique. And I also love the fact that although we might have different ways of seeing life in certain areas, we still can come together and talk and enrich from each other and say like, oh, that's right, I haven't thought about this. So that's pretty unique. But so what has been happening for you in the last decade? Like what it's been in Latina for you right now versus what it was back in the days when we met? How it's been that journey for you of transformation, and how have you actually been seeing that transformation happening in your episodes with the different people that you connect? And the content that you are publishing today? Like, how is that been happening today and versus how it all started?
Yeah, I learned a lot from the people that I interviewed, and I love how we all have a different answer for this question about like what it means to be a Latina or Latin person. And I love that this answer can also change over time. It definitely changed for me. And I think I have been reflecting on this answer for the past decade since I moved to the US, because it was when I moved here that I discovered that I'm a Latina. I think like coming from Brazil or being in our own countries, we don't think much about like, oh, am I Latina? Like, what am I? I don't know. We don't think much about it, especially because I feel like this country, they like to put us in boxes. And for a lot of like Brazilians and Latin people from like non-Spanish speaking countries, maybe the way we see ourselves is different from like the Spanish speakers, but we always share like a similar story. And also the fact that sometimes we don't feel a Latin person until we move abroad, especially the US. And for me, being a Latina means being part of a community that's really big and caring, super, super smart, talented, and at the same time, so kind and humble. And I feel like I can also always borrow their strength when I need. So I feel like instantly connected when I see someone from Latin America, because this similarity brings us closer, I think. And when I moved to this country, I felt like very lonely because it took me some time to meet people who look like me, who spoke like me, you have like similar things. And until I found like other Latin people, I feel like really part of a community. And I feel this is really, really, really important to be part of, feel that you're part of a community. And I feel especially now it might be harder, especially for Latin people, because our community is under attack. It's under attack for many, many years, especially now. So I think us being closer, being together, being helping each other, it's a lot more important now. And this is so important. So I think if I would summarize, being a Latina means, I don't know, it means that I'm part of something bigger and I'm very proud of.
Yes, I love that because I kind of went through the same journey. I know we talked a little bit about that, but when I moved from Cuba to Venezuela, I felt like I was in need of hiding my identity as a Cuban person. But then when I went back to the Bay Area, and that was because of political situations and everything in Venezuela, that was a little tense there. But when I moved to the Bay Area, it was also like a new opportunity to reconnect with those roots. When I shyly was saying, yes, I was born in Cuba, but people's reactions were like, oh my God, like, how is that? Because again, there was not a big Cuban community in San Francisco, which is different. And if you are in Florida and other states. So back in the days, that was not the case. So I felt like, wow, that sounds great. Like, why not? Why am I not saying this thing? And I had the opportunity to go back to Cuba in 2016 with eBay as a new venture to kind of expand business and opportunities. And it was kind of going back to the full circle where I reconnected with those roots. So, and then there were a couple of episodes. I was traveling with a group of 5 or 6 people, and they were literally seeing how we were living there and everything. And all of them came back and said, wow, you have to be proud, like the way you guys do this. We were very focused on the auto car industry. And they were, oh, even the mechanics there, the real mechanics one here, not the ones that we have. So I felt great when I reconnected with that. So for me, it's also a sense of resilience, but it's also about something that I think we need to learn as Latinos or Hispanics in general is like, yes, this is part of our identity, but it doesn't have to put us in a box or just put us in a kind of a victim approach. Like, yes, that happens, but let's keep moving. So I think that's what we can see in those examples that are able to succeed somehow. So that's pretty exciting. And in general, I also wanted to ask you more about different challenges that you've been seeing in your life, probably the language. I know we've been talking about that in the past. Yes, how do I say this way or not? But specifically on the podcast, like what was the most difficult thing for you? I know you are a multi disciplinary person with different skills as well, but what was the most difficult part? And also, have you learned something not only on the soft skill part of things, but also on the hard skill part of things during this journey, interviewing people and publishing the different articles?
This is very cliche, but the most challenging part of launching a podcast was to start. It was the most difficult one. I think I stayed in my head for many years until I really gave myself a deadline and actually started to do the work needed to launch a podcast, because I was thinking, doing research for quite a while, and kind of like having this in the dreamland. And I was starting to get frustrated because I was ready, but I wasn't doing anything to actually launch it. And when I decided to launch, it was actually very quick because I was kind of planning for a while. And I found this like online podcast course, of course, because I'm just like, this is like my process. I like courses. I'm a nerd and I like to research. And this course really helped me to stay focused, choose the right equipment and like softwares, and learn more about the space from like a creator perspective. And honestly, I only bought a good microphone and I hired an editor, because one thing that's very important to me for my hobbies, my personal projects, they are my professional development area. And I don't mind using my free time, my weekends to work on my hobbies. But one thing that I decided is like, as much as I can, whenever I can, I'm going to outsource the things that I don't like to do. So I don't like to edit. I don't enjoy editing. So I hired an editor, Tamiris. She's with me since day one, and she's amazing. So I have help. So this is another thing that was important for me. And I think the fact that I have been building and like creating products for the past decade, it really helped me to launch the podcast, to stay organized and prioritize what my community wanted. So, and also I always say that like selfishly, I started the podcast because I wanted to consume something like that. And at the time, we didn't have anything like it. And also, I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to learn from them. So this was something that was very, very important for me. And also give them visibility, right? Increase their reach. It was really important for me. And then my problem became another thing. My problem in the end, and still kind of today, is to prioritize the people that I'm interviewing, because I started to receive a lot of inquiries with like really, really amazing, inspiring people because they wanted to be in the podcast. So I really needed to prioritize because I had my capacities. So since day one, I decided that my capacity was one episode per month. So more than that will be challenging for me. And also because I had this goal to interview one person from each Latin America country. And of course, me being from Brazil makes me know a lot of Brazilians. And I was like, no, yes. I'm not interviewing Brazilians anymore because we achieved our goal. I need to focus on like the other countries I didn't interview. I know a lot of Mexicans, they are amazing, but I'm like, no, I need to focus on my goal to bring diversity in terms of countries. And at first, I want to interview at least one person from each Latin America country. And then I was like, oh, there's the Caribbean. We are so close. I want to interview Caribbean people too. Yeah. So I prioritized achieving my goal, and I achieved my goal. We have representation from all Latin America countries and the Caribbean as well. And then this part was really, really important for me. So I talked with a lot of really, really smart and incredible people. Answering your question about the soft skills, I think the soft skills are very, very important because during those interviews, we are talking. And for me, was always very important that the person feel proud of the episode and feel like relaxed and happy. A lot of people that I interviewed, they never did a podcast before. So it's not easy. It's really, really hard. So make them feel comfortable was really important, and them feel proud of the episode as well. So the soft skills were very, very important. And the hard skills, like being able to launch on time, use the technology, editing, promotion, like there's a lot that comes into launching an episode. So it came very handy that I have been doing that for quite a while.
Yeah, so I love the bits that you were mentioning, and I can think of at least three things that are important that you used for your podcast, but are skills and ways of thinking that can be applied to everything. Now, the first one is pretty much recognizing what you love to do versus what you don't love to do, which is more translated to what am I good at and what I am not good at, right? So being humble enough to say, you know what, I'm not the hero of this movie, so it's totally fine. There are others that are stronger than me, and when you use that in other corporate environments or at work, etc., you realize that you have the same paradox wherever you go. So that's a very strong piece. The second one is the power of the storytelling. I think you were mentioning that, yes, getting very focused on, okay, I want to get that diversity. I want to get insights that are quite unique. And at the end of the day, and I want to tell the story in a way that people can feel proud of. So I think that's also very powerful in the new era that we're living, where everything seems to be about data and about analytics and behavior and AI and all of that. That's very important. But at the same time, tell me the story, right? When we think about how our brain works as well, there are pretty much different pieces of research that confirm that our default state is just storytelling. When we're resting, our brain is still telling the story, for the good, for the bad. We can all have different experiences with that. But that power of the storytelling is quite unique, and it will be more and more. It goes very connected with the critical thinking, how you tell the facts and all of this. So you are applying that in each of the episodes or in the last years in each of the monthly episodes. So that's very powerful. And the third one that you mentioned is how to use different tools that can somehow help me accelerate certain pieces. And I wanted to ask you if you shifted a little bit the tools that you were using. I guess now it might be easier to record a podcast or to create a script. But I'm sure that back in the days when you started, everything was coming from your brain, from your mind, sitting, bringing, probably translated to English, to Portuguese, back and forth. It's not like the world that we're living today, where I can pretty much drop a prompt and then get a beautiful script that it's not completely human crafted, that is not with the signal of free from AI, which is great. I'm a pro AI person and everything, but that sense of craftsmanship and that sense of the artisan value is pretty unique. And it's pretty funny because the first episode was probably happening 6-7 years ago. And when we look back, it's like, oh, you did all of this, like coming from your mind versus now. Like, and you can say, yeah, anybody can record a podcast these days, but it's not the case. You were there where things were real and very like raw and hands-on and all of that. Like, have you experienced that? Like, oh, now it's easier, yes or no? Like, how that's have been shaping you more in the inner part of things?
That's a really good point. I think I never thought about it, comparing to my podcast and the work that I have been doing. I think now we can definitely scale a lot more because we have a lot more tools. And of course, we have AI, so you can scale more. And two examples, I used to hire a company to do the transcription because we also have a blog. And again, it was a work that I didn't enjoy, and it was very time consuming at the time. I used some tools, but they weren't super great. So I hired a company to do the transcription, and now I use AI, and it's great. It's so much easier. And for me, as a podcast, one person, it helps me a lot because it's an extra cost that I don't need to have, right? And this is important because I'm small. And also another thing, I hired someone who did the voiceover and like a real human, and she's great. She's Latina, and it was great experience to work with her. But again, if it was now, I don't know, what I will do actually, because it's important to me to, I think this is another thing that a lot of people don't know. For the folks that I hire for the podcast, I only hire folks from minority groups and Latinos, especially. Like most of the people that work with me for the podcast, they are all Latin people or folks part of like minority groups. So this is always important to me. And it's mostly women. So this is another thing, but it's also like a balance, right? That sometimes I don't have the budget. So for the transcription part, it was something that it was a lot of my budget. So now I use AI. So I think this is another thing. And also AI is great for brainstorming. So it's another thing, another tool that I didn't have in the past. I think in the past, I used to spend a lot more time doing researching about the person, their life. And now I kind of can expedite this process a little bit, like with the help of AI. For sure. But it's important to me to still have the time and for like experimentation and forgetting about this, what AI a lot of times bring us, which is like things look the same. The questions are very similar from like other podcasts and other stuff out there. And this kind of like perfection that I feel AI sometimes bring us. So for me, it's very important that the podcast, it's real. It's like real people, real questions. So this is something that to me, it's very important. Although, of course, I use all those tools because it helps me and it helps me to scale. And this is important when you're doing something by yourself in your free time.
Yeah, the AI can release us from those mundane things, but you are the obligation of expanding your mind even more and bringing some other aspects. So having that opportunity to kind of release your always on activities, giving us also the responsibility to elevate the game even more, no? Like being more present in the conversation. How can I ask the right questions? How can I learn more about the person that I'm interviewing and therefore take the most out of that conversation? So I think that's pretty unique. And what have you learned? I know we didn't include any of this in the general script, but I'm curious to know, like, what has surprised you from the human being after this journey? Like, are there things in specific that you have found unique? Like, let's say we all like to talk about ourselves. Yes, we know that. But what else? What else have you seen that it's kind of unique? What is that aim for us to tell a story, to let me show you where I want to go, or let me share my fears? Like, what have you learned and what have surprised you in this journey about those interactions?
I think the first thing in the season 1, I interview friends. They were all my friends because they are, first of all, amazing and inspiring. And because I want to do this thing. So, and they trust me, and I'm very thankful for that. But since the first season, I started to receive a lot of requests of people wanting to be in the podcast. And sometimes, like a lot of times, actually very famous people. So their agents were reaching out to me, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. That's really cool. So this was something that I wasn't expecting at all. And like being part of like best top 10 Latin podcasts to listen. So it was really cool. And another thing in general, no matter what, like how famous the person was, they were always like very kind and they wanted to help. They wanted to share the story, not to promote themselves, but to help others. So this was very inspiring. And to me, especially in the beginning when I was interviewing like very famous people with like a lot of experience in podcasting and public speaking, which I'm not, I felt like very nervous, but they were all great and super awesome and kind. So it brought me this closeness, because in the end of the day, we are all humans. So it was really good. I think this was something that was really special. And it brought me a lot of really cool opportunities. And I never thought about it because it wasn't the goal in the beginning, right? The goal was to help my community via storytelling. But it brought me really good opportunities. I was invited by Microsoft. They brought me to Seattle to be part of like their most important event. And we did a live podcasting, and I never thought about it. I was part of a lot of different events, and it was really, really good to be part of that. The podcast was invited by HubSpot to be part of their community. So I'm part of the HubSpot creator community. It was something that I never thought that this could happen. So it was definitely something that I never expected. And it was really nice that I didn't have this expectation, because I could create something that I really believed, instead of like having all those noise that I was like, oh, if I do X, HubSpot is going to invite me. If I do this other thing,
That's right.
Microsoft will see me. Like, no, I just did what I truly believed, and things happened. So it was really, really interesting. And I'm very proud and happy about it.
Yes, we are all very proud of everything you've done, and I really love how you frame that, because sometimes, particularly when you come to the US for the first time, it's always this thing: I need to prove myself, I need to do this, I need to do that, and it's this fear, and it takes you probably a couple of years or more to realize, no, wait, I don't have to prove anything. Everything is fine. And in your case, you started with that mindset from the beginning, like, hey, I'm doing this because I'm passionate about this, and then the opportunities will follow, right? So that's kind of how we should see life in general, but sometimes it takes us more time than what we want to realize all of this. So that's pretty unique. And I know the main intention, or that intersection in the podcast, was not only about speaking about our cultures and our ways of living. It was also about something more on the hard skill part of things, the product management, project management, etc. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we all have been going through that process of mapping things out, like what I was doing before, what does that mean here, etc. So back in the days when we met in the Bay Area, it was a big thing. Just working in product was kind of the hot topic, right? Like everybody wanted to do it, etc. So it's a little different now. I know things have been changing. I've been moving more to other areas, expanding. So I'm not necessarily doing pure product today, although I always feel like product is embedded across everything you do. You're always a product manager, regardless of where you are, right? So all of this started with that. Do you still feel that this is relevant to talk about this and just to continue bringing that intersection? Or if you need to open the second phase of this episode, what is going to be the other topic? Is it going to be about what? Human behavior? Or is it going to be about analytics? Or what are those connections? If you need to kind of build that group of knowledge, you started with product, but what might be next for you, if that's the case, if you want to bring something relevant?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the podcast started to focus on product management because it was something that I was focusing at the time. I was transitioning my career to product, and I knew a lot of product managers, and for sure it was a hot topic. Everybody was talking about product management. So I think like the podcast followed my journey, but also followed what my users, my listeners, the community was interested in. So it was very important to me to follow the trends and what people are talking about, what they were interested about. And you're right, it changed over time. So in the beginning, it was heavy on product management, also design. I interview a lot of designers. And then over time, I started to interview other folks from other areas within tech, engineering as well, like different areas of engineering and different focus areas. Started to talk more about AI since the beginning, so which was very interesting. And it was definitely following what my community wanted and also what I wanted. So I think I was always like part of like this process, because I know as a product person, first thing you need to know, you're not your user. But at the same time, I had my interests too, and I wanted to bring a different perspective on a lot of other things. So I always interview people who work in tech, but from time to time, I brought people from other areas to talk about other things. for example, imposter syndrome, burned out. I brought some artists as well because I thought it was very interesting because there's a lot of like, even within tech, we are also in the intersection between like art as well in some areas. So it was
100%.
important to me to bring an artist to the conversation and a lot of other things that I feel that I still like relevant. And from time to time, I was always kind of like doing research, asking the community what they wanted, and they could rank like topics, things to talk about. So it was something interesting as well. Like I brought people from like HR. So I tried to diversify as much as possible because I think in the beginning, for folks who started to listen to the podcast, I didn't want them to feel, oh, this is only about product management, or this is only about design, or this is only about engineering, because I don't know, I received this feedback that people were like, oh, I thought it was very technical. And then I listened to the episode, I could understand. And I was like, yeah, this is the goal. So it became very important to me for like anyone who wanted to consume the podcast to have the sense, okay, we might be talking about with this engineer, but you can follow the conversation. So it was something very important to me, the accessibility part of things, not just in providing the podcast via audio, but via video and via like blog posts as well. So people could have access in different mediums. It was another thing that was important to me.
Yes, because particularly now in the new world that we're living, where you can just listen to a podcast, or you can read a book, or you can just have access to information and suddenly understand about themes that were more technical back in the days, like again, AI, machine learning, everybody talks about that, stable coins and this and that. So now I feel like that's so in the surface that everybody can have a conversation, right? So at least to start with. So it's our commitment to definitely just debrief as much as possible, but also, which is something I'm very passionate about, how can I bring this and show the new generations that there are new ways of building careers, of growing, etc. It might be in the product, it might be in the design or UX, it might be in the payments, or it all depends on those different that full spectrum where you want to go, where you feel happy. And it's not only about the traditional job positions that we used to know in the past. So that's exciting. And I know we are about to close this time for now. I just want to close with a very cliche question, but what is next for you? What is next?
What is next? I don't know. And I love that I'm giving this answer because I'm a planner and I love to think about the future. So I don't know what is next. I have been enjoying the uncertainty these days. And I love that I started this podcast and how much I learned through this process and how deeply connected I feel about my guests. And I feel that we truly connected and I have like a lot of like new friends, which is awesome. And it also expanded my world. I remember some days not feeling so great, but interviewing people because I plan to record. And after we record, I was like, oh, I feel awesome. Their energy, it's amazing. I feel inspired. And also how those conversations lift my mood as well. But I feel that is also important to make space for the new and for rest. This is something really important to me right now. I have been reflecting how I have been working nonstop since the pandemic because I felt like my time had expanded and I didn't realize how I'm like always working for the past 5 years. So I wanted to take a step back and recharge. And the podcast will always live. Of course, we are in all streaming platforms, YouTube, blog, on Medium. So we are in the internet. So it's out there. There's no way of turning back, which is awesome. And perhaps the podcast will return in another form. I'm not sure yet, but when the timing feels right, the Latinx in Power will definitely come back. And I feel this is not a goodbye. It's a see you soon. And I don't know when, but it's going to happen.
Yes, definitely. I love the fact that it's yes, being in the present, the power of doing nothing, which is a very interesting philosophy that I've been trying to apply as well. So those moments of rest, that's where again the creativity comes back, the storytelling comes back as a result of a very strong default that puts us in the next stage. So I'm forever grateful for our first coffee time, forever grateful for the first meeting back in the Google offices with the women in tech and Latinos in tech group. So those are beautiful memories that form the foundation of who I am today. And you were part of those. So I'm very happy for that. I'm sure that we will start together a new episode, whatever that means. If it's you with a microphone or if it's you just with the notes, whatever. But I'm always cheering for you and looking forward to seeing that next level of expansion that you always have. So thank you for this. And I'm sure that we are on this together. You will not get rid
We
of
are.
any of us.
You know that we are. And before we finish, I wanted to share 5 behind the scenes stories because I feel that they are very funny. And a lot of people don't know that because I was behind all of that. And the first one is that podcast is my worst nightmare. I always felt more comfortable with writing than recording, especially recording something in my second language and putting out there in the world. It's very scary. And the second one, I told this already. You were my first guest, and I was very nervous when we recorded. I have no idea what I was doing, and I was like, "Oh, I created this script. I think I know, but it was awesome." I actually re-listened to our episode not a long time ago, and I was feeling very cringe about myself. Not you, you're perfect. But then I was like, oh, this was actually very nice. I enjoy listening to this episode. You know how you feel cringe about your past self sometimes. So I recommend people listening to your first episode. You actually have 2 episodes, 3 right now. And the other curiosity is I used to record the episodes, the podcast with my 2 cats and my pug. Very, very brave. And one of my cats, he was very talkative. In some episodes, people can listen to him talking. And my cats passed away with 18 years old. Now I have 2 dogs, but they are too noisy to be together while I record. So I usually record with my older pug, not like 2 of them together. Another one, I don't think you know this. I create, the podcast music intro. I created this music in my iPad.
Really?
And I have a lot of fun doing it. And I'm not a musician, but I'm very proud of that result. It was something interesting that people might not know. And another thing, I hired like a professional voice actor to record the podcast intro. As I said, she's Latina. She's awesome. I was like, yes, this is really cool. And she had a hard time pronouncing my last name. And it was very interesting because I actually pronounce my name different from the right pronunciation. Like since I moved to this country, I say Fernandes, but it's not the right pronunciation. It's more like Fernandes. And I asked her to pronounce the right way, but it was very hard. And when I listened to the podcast, the intro, I kind of always laugh because I'm like, oh, it's not there yet, but it's close enough. So I think it comes to another thing, like how important it is to try to pronounce people's name. Although sometimes for like language barriers, we might not be able to pronounce it perfectly. But the fact that you are trying, that means a lot. So try and ask people how to pronounce. Some people, they have like really good tips to help you to remember how to pronounce their names. So this is very, 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 very important. And never ask, oh, do you have a short name? Like, no, don't do that. Don't be this person.
I love it. And also the pictures. Remember, you also build the whole identity with the pictures and the purple colors and all that. I thought that was beautiful when I got my sticker and everything. I was a beautiful identity out there. So yes, I love the journey, and again, we are here forever and ever. So let's go to the next level, whatever that means, even if it means just breathe, stay in the present, and listen. That's already a big thing. So thank you, Thais. I'm sure that I'm not saying the Fernandez with the Brazilian accent. I can know you guys have a lot of unique sounds that we don't have in Spanish. So, but yeah, thank you for everything.
I always
This is
struggle with
great.
the R. I feel there's never good enough, the R in Spanish. So we are in this together, but we are trying, and this is what matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the best.
That's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. I would love to hear your thoughts about the podcast and the episodes. Please message us with any insight, any feedback you might have, and also guest suggestions. Message us in your favorite social media platform. We are in all social platforms. And if you want to write us in a review, we will love that. Feel free to write us in a review on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon, or any other streaming that you like. Thank you.